There we go. We should have our drums mixed in. So I've put this week 5 tasks up, this little document on the VLE, so you can see what I'm about to run through today. So I'm going to look at some housekeeping things, but generally we're getting right into the kind of the nitty gritty in terms of the processing. So the drums should be all balanced, and I think last week we added our drum percussion, the clap sound and the little sound effects. We open hi-hat, reversed, that gives a little bit of movement, and we added these into our drum bus. If you want to later on add tracks into your group, if you just right click on it and go to modify, it brings up your little group dialog box, and you can see which channels, which tracks are in the group and which tracks you've got left in your session, so you can start to add things to it. I generally like to keep my overhead bus, my drum room out of the group so that they stay where they are and everything else moves relative to the rest of the track. That means that my overall mix isn't changing, but the level of it might. Okay, so if you wanted to add them in, if you didn't last week, you would just click on it on the left hand side, click add, and then it becomes part of that group. If you want to remove, again, just select it on the right hand side and then click remove. Because the percussion and the sound effects were added later, I kind of want to keep them separate until I've got my drums mixed. So it means I can still have universal control over my my drums, but I've got now individual control over my percussion and my sound effects. So what I want to start off with today is adding these two. So I'm going to give my track a wee listen. Oh, skipped a wee stage there. Okay, there's lots of snare coming through, but I needed to a wee bit more. I wanted to make it a bit more produced. Okay, I wanted the listener when they listen to it to realise they're listening to a record that had been produced rather than just a drummer in a room. So by adding that little clap in there, I've added in a little bit of a different character. It also allows me to really punctuate that snare hit. Okay, because as I said last week, similar to Motown putting a tambourine hit behind their snares. To make sure that part of the rhythm actually cut through. I've used a clap here to do the same thing, and if I listen to it without it, you notice it just misses a wee bit of edge. There's a wee bit of an attack that's disappeared from it. So it's not noticeable that there's a clap there. When you start bringing in all the other elements into this, you might not notice it too much, but it's doing an important little job in there. And then I've got my sound effects as well, so let me just check that everything's balanced okay. Make sure I go to a bit where all the tracks actually are. Oh, so I need to play guitar, let's get rid of that. Good, okay, quite happy with that. So now what I could do is I could then go to my groups and I could add that in. So go to modify just by right clicking on it and then adding these into my drum groups. And that means now that I've got them as part of the holistic drum mix. First thing I want to do then in these tasks, now that I've done that, is to add a little bit of tape echo onto the clap track. And that's going to allow me just to add a wee bit of slap character to it. Okay, that's what I want. It's going to give it a little bit of character in the mix, but it's going to let it punch through a little bit better as well. Also means it doesn't have to be as loud in the mix for it to do its job in there. Okay, so up here you've got tape echo. Most of you should have this. If you don't, then give me a shout once you get to run through it. It is in an additional plugins folder on the VLE. It's available to all of you. So when you open this up, if I just go to factory default and give it a listen, I'm just going to solo my clap and then give it a listen. That's far too much delay. So I can put the sync on here, which takes out the absolute timeline, minutes and seconds or milliseconds, down to bars and beats. Okay, so let me give this a listen. So what I'm after is just a really quick and then it's out. I'm not wanting it to go forever. So I need to play about with my feedback, remember? Last week in the delays, that was the amount of echoes that you get. And the mix is how loud that delay is in comparison to the dry sound coming in. So let's give that a listen. Okay, if it's up too loud, you're getting too much of the delay, not enough of the dry signal. Okay, I like that. And that's going to sit in there because the snare drum as well, at some point we're going to add a wee bit onto that as well. So now I can listen to that with the rest of the drums. Okay, you'll hear that making a difference there. Okay, it's went from da-ga, 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 da-ga. And it just gives it a nice bit of character, okay? And it's just those little subtle changes that are important. So, a very subtle tape echo. The mix, probably take it down to about 3. And you can play about with the timing in here, but I like to keep it synced up, okay? So that means it's going to be perfectly in time with my track as well. That's the scientific approach. The musical approach would be to move this little dial up and down until you find a delay that you like, that seems to work well with the track. So that's us kind of done with the drums. Then we're going to move on to the bass today. And I always mix my bass in with my drums, okay, because they're two really important elements. It's the rhythm section, so it's going to be pertinent that they both sit together, and therefore mixing them together makes sense. So in the bass, we're going to use EQ and compression, and then we're going to duplicate it across and add a wee bit of distortion to it and blend that in with the original bass, okay, to try and give it a little bit of dynamics in there, create another dimension to it. So give it a listen first of all, untouched. So first of all, the bass sounds good, okay, there's a lot of bottom end in there, there's a lot of nice high end, it's giving it this percussive character. So I don't want to do too much to it, I don't want to kill it with the compressor so that it loses all its dynamics, but I need to get a little bit of control over it. And I'm just going to try and find a sweet spot and very subtly bring it out, but it's going to be about balancing it in the track here. So I've got my EQ and my compression as well. I've spent all week mixing on a Windows keyboard on my Mac, you know, with controls and all that a wee bit, so I might keep pressing the wrong thing just because I'm conditioned that way. Okay, that's not what I'm after at all. Compressor and limiter. Okay, I've got some more plugins. There are far more plugins being available to you via that additional plugins folder on the VLE, so you can get access to them if and when you need it. You just have to install them individually, which takes forever. Anyway, so give this a little listen. So I'm on the bass here, so let's go for something severe down at the bottom end. I'm going to boost about 125 Hz and you'll hear it getting a bit muddy. There's a nice warmth in there actually, I quite like. Keep my output down. Remember I'm adding gain there, as we looked at my parametric EQ last week. I'm adding gain every time I'm turning a wee bit up, so I need to make sure my output comes down so that I'm not distorting within my plugin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this second little parametric control handle that, and I'm going to increase some of my sub bass from a very low control here. So I'll take that off for the time being and then set this to about 140 and then just apply a little bit of gain. Okay, so rather than having the red one do it, I've now got this setting this low mid frequency parameter. And I'm going to go right down to 50 Hz and I'm going to see if there's anything going on down there. Okay, you might not hear it that clearly through these speakers, but if you had a subwoofer you would hear all your bottom end thickening out. Okay, and I'm going to look in my mids, see if there's some boxiness I need to get rid of. So again, what I do is I just put a small band or a large Q and then put a spike and then sweep it up and down till I find something that I like or I don't. I can hear something in there, okay, so I don't like that. It's a wee bit of boxiness, it's a wee bit kind of mid-air that's getting added there that when I start trying to place everything in the mix, the bass guitar doesn't really be sitting about there, so I'm going to try and clean that up and just drop it out. I know it's can't really hear it, but I'll boost it so you can. Yeah, just a kind of scratch of the plectrum on the string. So Just going to pull that down a little bit, create a wider band, very subtle. But because I've really boosted it there, I've magnified and amplified and everything, made it totally much larger than it would ever be, but I found it, so I know it's there, and I know that if I start compressing things, that might give me a wee artifact, some little degradation of the sound that I want to avoid. So just by pulling it out here means that later on when I'm bringing everything up, I'm not bringing that up with it. Always think about your noise floor, signal to noise ratio, all that sort of stuff. It's a very similar concept here. Okay, and let's see if there's some character up in the top end here that I can find. Okay, not a lot happening up there, and that's because it's a bass sound, okay, and I've got a really rich sound from it. So now if I just bypass that, you should notice there's a little difference. It's got a bit more body in the bottom end, hopefully it's a wee bit cleaner in the mids, and I've added this wee bit of character in the high end, which should hopefully bring a bit more sparkle on the instrument itself. So I'll bypass it, then I'll bring it in. Okay, sounding okay, maybe just drop that down just a wee bit. Next one, so I've got no peaks, I've got no clips in my output meter or my input meter, so I know that everything's sitting quite nice in there. Now this is the kind of irony of this process, because this was well recorded, so by making little changes to it, subtle little changes which will make a much bigger difference down the line, you may not obviously hear it quite as clearly, but that's the whole nature of this, subtle changes. If you're a kind of engineer that wants to get in there and just start modifying everything so you can really hear what you've done to it, then no way does that mean you're doing what's best for the track. And at the end of the day, the song is king. Okay, it's the song and the sonicality of it that takes precedence, and that's what's paramount in your process. Okay, so P's there. Alrighty, so wee bit of bass there, sounds okay. Now I'm up my compressor. So we know about bass is like it's a big energy, big waveform, all that sort of stuff. Think about the attack components of this particular instrument. Dun, dun, dun. It's going to have quite a long release, quite a quick attack. So I'm going to play about with some of the parameters. I don't want to see any more than about 3 decibels of gain reduction going on here, because the bass is played really evenly, and you can see that in the waveform here. Okay, if I just go to the bass, it's relatively, yeah, there's louder parts, but it's generally quite balanced. Okay, it's not massively changing quiet and loud. You find that's generally the case with the bass guitar. So I'll go into louder parts in the chorus. Okay, this is going to be the verse actually. Far too much compression, I'm taking so much of the body away from it, so I'm going to increase my threshold, so the point at which compression occurs now is much larger, so it's going to be a lot louder before the compressor starts to act on it. Look at my gain reduction up here, no more than about 3 decibels, which is perfect. So it's just catching it a little bit, it's not too severe. If I start overly compressing the bass, it'll distort and it'll just sound minging. So I want to avoid that. So I'm quite happy with that, and it should then balance it out as it moves into the chorus. Cool. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate this. So I right click on it and I'm going to duplicate track. And here's all the things you can move over. You can move over the active playlist, which is currently what you're listening to. Alternate playlists, which is if you use one track but do different takes on it, you can keep them all layered in playlists under that one track. You'll see more of that. It's more of a recording thing. You'll see more of that in the studio. And then if you do any automation, volume changes, pan changes, they can go as well. The only thing I want to take across is the active playlists. So I'm going to take and the insert. Okay, so I've got the, I don't want to take the inserts because that's the compression EQ I've already added onto it. So that's fine. Click OK. It's now down here. I'm going to rename it as Bass Overdrive. Now when I'm up here, I can start to apply this directly onto it. So I'm just going to use that little harmonic plugin. You guys could use air distortion. Just crank this. Sounds quite nice. I'm going to use that. Okay, that's obviously really loud, so I'm just going to blend it into the mix until I've got a bit more character. First thing I'm going to do is balance my bass, original bass with the drums. Sounds pretty good. Now I'm going to blend in the overdrive bass so that it starts to create some new character in there. Again, not too crazy, just nice and subtle. And Command S as you go, always be saving. Again, that fattening up the bass a little bit in there. Very subtle again. You crank this, it's going to swamp over the electric guitars and all that. But as we go, that's starting to sound quite subtle. So I duplicated the track and added a wee bit of distortion. Now I'm just blending it in. All happy with that? You're all over the moon with it. The enthusiasm is busting. Okay, so bass and bass overdrive blended in together. Now I've got a solid rhythm section in here that I'm really happy with. So I'm going to save that and jump back to my tasks and see what's next. So I'm going to group the distorted guitars and send to a stereo auxiliary bus. Okay, stereo auxiliary bus. This should become bread and butter because you'll be doing it every time you record anything or when you're mixing things down. So at this point, I know it's learning, but it should become more comfortable over the next few weeks. Once I create that up, I'm then going to EQ and compress the bus. So I've got 3 guitar tracks getting sent to one bus, and I'm going to EQ and compress that bus. You guys can feel free to put any effects or pan or balance the individual channels as you want, but they're quite well played and they were compressed in the way in, so I'm not going to need a lot of compression on the individual tracks. I'm going to use the compression creatively now to bring out a bit of character, a bit of energy in the guitar tracks. And find some EQ so I can actually get rid of some of the boxiness in it. So I'll do it in isolation to begin with, and then I'll do it in the context of a mix. So first thing I'm going to do is find my guitar tracks. So I've got 3 distorted guitars here. I'm going to solo them, and I'm going to group them as well. Command G and call this distorted guitars. Now I've got individual collective control over the individual tracks. And obviously find a bit of the track where they're playing. Okay, so they're sounding okay, but they're a bit boxy, so I'm going to try and clean up some of that ruddiness in them. So now that I've created my group, I then create a stereo auxiliary input, click create and call this guitar bus. Solo safe mode, again, as I showed Caroline this morning, if you don't have that on, then you have to solo that every time you solo these so you can hear it, and it becomes a bit of a pain in the arse, so we like to avoid that. So solo safe mode allows us just to have it constantly soloed, which means we don't need to press it every time. So good, on this track, if you want to balance these first of all before you put your group, play about with them. Okay, you've got 3 different tracks. Basically you've got just 2 power chords doubled up, and then you've got 1 track that's just the first power chord, that kind of Sex Pistols vibe, you just want to accent the first chord in the sequence. Okay, I'm quite happy with that as it goes. Give this a listen. EQ and compression now is going to go directly onto this channel. Better set this up first of all, I suppose. Okay, bus 7 and 8, rename that and call it this guitar bus, and then send each of the outputs to the input here. So I could do it slowly, bus, guitar bus, or if I hold in Alt and Shift, Any changes I make to the outputs are going to happen to each of the tracks that are selected down here, like that. And then because I've got OCD, I'm going to go in there and fix that. So now what I've got is everything coming through this one track here, and I'm going to use the EQ to find the box of this, get rid of it. Nicer, add some bottom end. Let's see what's happening up at the high end as well there. Okay, so you can obviously hear a big difference there. So that's getting applied to all the channels. If you find that one of the actual guitars needs a bit more impact, you might want to treat that separately. Then add the inserts directly onto the guitar track itself. But for the time being, we're treating it holistically. So we're adding that EQ onto the guitar bus. Okay, so we can all hear that. If I just bypass it there, it's dead thin. Okay, so it's okay now. I might go back and revisit this, of course, once I listen to everything else. Now what I'm going to do with the compressor is try and make it sound really big and engulfing, okay? Loads of kind of pumping, loads of energy going on, loads of bits ducking out and getting added in. So I'm going to play about with my attack and my release until I feel like I'm getting a nice bit of almost percussion in my compressor. All I'm really listening for is character here. Now you guys can use presets for the time being, but don't just blindly whap them on and then just leave them, okay? I want you to use that as a starting point. A preset, again, has been made by industry professionals that know how this particular unit works and the sweet spots surrounding particular instruments. However, your recording, your sound is going to be slightly different every time, so make sure you use it only as a starting point and then you tweak it. For the time being, I'm just going to go to town on it, okay? I'm going to look for about 6 dB of gain reduction and then play about it from there. Set that play back up so it's the kind of percussion there, it's going to it's just kind of, it's getting ducked out too much, so I'm sitting on it too heavily. So again, think about your attack and release parameters and where it should sit. If I go down to a really quick attack, then the compressor's jumping on it straight away. If I make my release really long, then it's sitting on it for a long time before it lets it do anything. So therefore the character of the performance might be totally taken away because now my compression is just really heavy on it. If I make the attack quite slower, or a lot slower, then what could happen is that it's taking a while for the compressor to jump on it and close it, so the attack portion of the sound is able to open up. Then the compressor sits on it, so you get this kind of sound. So I can play about with that if that's what I'm after, but I'm not too sure what I'm after yet, so I'm just going to have some fun exploring the sounds. Slow attack seems to be the way to go. That energy now, the guitar seems like it's bubbling, it's ready to kind of pop out, but the compressor's just sitting on top of it. Similar to my overheads, if I leave them as they are, it's going to be really loud and unpredictable. When I compress my overheads, suddenly what I've got is a lot of control over the dynamics and the transients, the different elements within it, and that's what I've done here with the guitar. So let's give it a listen. out. Okay, this is power chords, there's nothing special going on with these guitars, okay, and it's, you know, most of my tunes, it's all layered simple ideas, but lots of them, to make a kind of holistic sound. Remember, if you make any changes in here, for instance, if I start then turning up one of these guitar channels, it's sending more signal to that compressor, which means that particular sound might get compressed more than the other tracks, and effectively by turning it up, you can actually be turning it down if the compressor is sitting more on that particular track than it is on the others. It's compressing that when it's leaving the other parts alone. Okay, so remember, if you're balancing these, sometimes bypass your effect by holding in Command and pressing the effect itself, and you'll see that it becomes bypassed. Okay, so I quite like that. Let's bring in the drums, the bass. Sounding good, okay, getting there, starting to sound rocking. But you can see I've got a clip here in my master fader. Okay, that means I need to bring everything down, all my tracks. So if I use all and bring them down, and it keeps my mix relatively, you know, what I've created there in terms of how the tracks are sitting compared to the other, but it brings everything down and it gives me more headroom to move into. So you can see in here I'm peaking this little red value down here, 2.9, says that I'm peaking by almost 3 decibels. So I'm going to bring everything down by 3. Now if I go to my master fader here, it's a good one to use because I can keep my eye on the output. This is going to return to 0, but I'll bring it down and I can count here on the little green values down here. I'm going to take it down by 4 decibels. Then I take the all group back off and I return my master fader to 0. It should always be at 0. It means you're working at unity, you're getting the best signal to noise ratio out of your system. Let's give that a listen. I love I can just hear the kind of clap sound every now and again cutting through there, so it's going to sound great. Nice one. Cool. Are you hearing a difference there? Hopefully you can hear that it's polishing the sound up. Again, the analogy I always use when you're mixing is be subtle, okay? And remember Father Ted when he wins the car in the raffle, and he accidentally bumps it and he gets a tiny little bump in the sort of chassis of the car, and he goes in to fix it just with tiny little changes, and then after all he goes, I thought I had it back then, and the car's totally destroyed, like humorously so, with the bonnet's all bent out of shape. Those tiny little tweaks, those tiny little changes over a large enough scale, time scale, can actually, you know, be detrimental. So make changes quickly, move on, and then go back and visit them. Okay, if you spend too long focusing on one bit, you forget the rest of the song, your ears change, you become fatigued where you can't even hear what you were going for originally. So make subtle little changes, but make them fast and move on, and try and keep the whole process going quite quickly. There'll be plenty of times to go in and really fine tune it later on. For the time being, I've got that polished sound, sounding good, so I'm going to move on to my next bit. And there's a nice wee tremolo guitar in here that just introduces the different parts of the verse. This guy here, let me just solo it. Okay, quite percussive, lots of movement on it. It does its job in the context of the mix. Just take away that things that I don't need in here. So I'm going to get rid of piano, get rid of the synths, and make sure the vocals are down as well as they are. Okay, so that's all it does. It's not a huge part of the song, it's a very important part of the track, because at that point it all kind of dies down and the guitars disappear and you're just back to the rhythm section. So this is quite percussive, that's the whole point of it. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to pan it to the left, but I'm going to send it also to a mono auxiliary input on the right, so that it starts on the left and then I'm going to delay it in the right and create a bit of width. I'm not wanting it for it to go bring, bring, okay, be that noticeable a delay. I just want it to spread across my stereo image. So bring, and then I've got over it moves, okay? When you deal in sound, you always verbalise or vocalise the sound. So let's give it a wee listen. I'll just solo it. And why not? I'm going to put a wee bit of compression on it, okay? And I'm going to put a really long release, so it goes bring and hangs out for much longer, okay? Here we go. Go to my compressor. Play about the release. And really what I want to do here is add a long tail on the envelope, okay? So I'm going to make the compressor sit on it for a bit longer. Just going to add a little bit of volume at the tail end on the sustain and release portions of my envelope. Okay, and then without, let's just give it a listen. Don't want to cut too much into that attack during that part of it, so I'm going to leave my attack quite slow. Cool, that's alright, a subtle little change in there. Again, I'm just throwing that one in there, you guys can do what you feel with it. Now what I'm going to do is pan it to the left hand, so I'll just go severe and pan it all the way over to left hand side 100. So I can't hear that as being different. Are you guys noticing a shift there? No, I mean speakers are dead close together at the front of the class. But you guys have your equilateral triangle home and be able to hear that shift. Anyway, what I'm going to do is create a little mono auxiliary input of this and call it guitar width and pan it all the way to the right hand channel. I'm not going to use my output here because if I do that then I'm sending all this channel to this channel, and where's it going to appear in my stereo image? In the right, good, okay, because even though I've got that panned left, I'm sending all to a right hand bus, which is going to be totally pointless. So I need to use my sends instead this time, which sends a duplicate version of the signal to this particular channel while maintaining the original audio in the left hand field. So I'll just go to bus and I'll go to bus 11, I think it's empty. I'll rename it and call it guitar width bus, and go up to my expanded sends so I can see it there, and then just bring it all the way up. Okay, so it's sent to the left hand, it's sent to the mono channel in here. So let's just see if I've got a signal coming through. There we go. Guitar width bus. Good, so there it is. But now I've just got a duplicate version of the signal, so it's coming out both speakers at the same time. So when I localise that, where am I going to see it? Where am I going to see the sound? In the centre, good, because it's coming out both speakers with the same volume at the same time. So now what should happen is if I add a little bit of delay onto this channel, then I should localise it in the left because I hear it there first, but I should also get a little remnant of it in the right, which is going to create that width that I'm talking about. I'm going to hear it here in the left, but also perceive it in the right and create this width between my stereo image. So this is really useful for getting the most out of your tracks. Remember, if you're mixing tracks, you don't have a choice over what was recorded. You only have what is then given to you. So this is ways of using what's already there to get the most of it. So again, I'm just going to use this little tape echo, and I'm going to take the mix all the way up to 9, alright? Because I don't want any of the dry signal in it. I just want the delayed signal. Now, if I leave it a long time with the sync off, this basically means it's not synchronising to the bars and beats or the tempo of my track itself. It's just in musical time, absolute time, this minutes and seconds. So it's at 375 milliseconds. I'm going to hear that as an echo, so let's play it. You might choose that's what you're after, okay? I'm not. I need it just to be ring, and I don't really want to hear it delay in the right, but I want to perceive it in the right. So I'm going to bring it all the way down. And importantly, if you take it down to about 10 milliseconds or so, if you can, then you might be okay. Let's try 70 and see how that sounds. That's quite nice. So if I bypass it and listen to them all just coming out the speakers together, that's it. Put bypass and then bring in my delay. So you put your headphones in, you're going to hear that go ring right round you. Okay, and it's going to give the track listenability every time you go back and listen to it. I'm still waiting on speaker stands coming, which meant I could separate the speakers here, so you could hear that actually happening. But when you guys implement it into your session, you'll notice it. Going hard left to hard right is a bit much, so what I'm going to do is just bring this in a little bit. I like to go in 15, so I'm going to bring it into 60 and do the same in the right hand channel as well. If you guys want to be severe with it, as I say, then you can always put your sync on. Sounds quite nice on it. Balance these off so they're the same volume. Keep an eye on your meters here. If this one's reading a lot louder because the delay plugin might have added gain to it, and make sure you bring it down so you can balance it off. That was pretty good. Let's give it a listen in the mix. Listen without the delay on it. It's just missing a bit of character. Much better. And as well as creating a bit more reinforcing the sound, I've created a bit of dynamics and I've created a bit of depth now in my mix. This nice width thing that's going on, which is going to make it very listenable. Okay, the last bit I was going to look at is putting compression on a piano track, but I've went through quite a lot this morning, so I'm just going to leave these up to 0.7 in the tasks. Okay, and I'll put this video online as well. So what I've done now is I've got my drums, I've got my bass, and I've got my guitars all sitting nicely together. So let's go to a really loud part of the track and just give it a listen. Get my groups back on. Remember, just a shortcut. If you're in your mix window, A, B and C are the letters next to it, allow you to make the changes, but only in the mix window, so I can activate them on and off. It's just the letter A has a different function in here, so we'll just keep that on. What you find is that, yeah, that sounds pretty kind of straightforward guitars. It's just a kind of punky pop sort of song, but there's lots and lots of other things going on in there, vocals and arpeggiators and pianos and all the rest of it. So there's loads of things in there that kind of fatten up that sound that we're going to look at as we move forward. So we've got our synth lead, for instance. Let's just have a quick listen to what's there. Be warned, you'll all be listening to my vocals next week. So I've also got an arpeggiator in at the end, which really fattens up that last bit and gives it loads of character. Like it? Okay, so the synth and all that was put down first, and that's why the guitar's just kind of doing its purpose in it, which is just very simple power chords, just to keep the song moving and give it a dynamic element rather than being doing anything fancy. And I'm a man of simple pleasures, so I like my music to be the same. Alrighty, so any questions? I know I've went through quite a lot of stuff there, but that's why the videos are there, because we could spend 10 weeks doing each of these one thing per week, okay, and give me 3 hours to do it. But the class works at too much of this disparate level where people are racing on and all that. So you're expected to be learning this and looking at the videos at home, watching other videos and certain techniques and all that to supplement your own learning while you're in here. Okay, so you need to take ownership of it as much as possible. That adage, I know this, I already know it. Okay, you guys are here to learn it. So I'll facilitate as much as possible, but if you're finding things you don't understand, then put your hand up and ask questions or watch the video until it sinks in. Right folks, so if you download the week 5 tasks from the VLE, I'd like you to get moving on with it. If you've only got a wee bit left to do from last week, then just finish up on that. but I'd like everyone to get moving on to this as soon as possible.